Meanwhile, at Twitch HQ, the marketing team is strategizing on a new advertising vertical.
My friends at Twitch headquarters, the executives, the influencers, Hassan, nice to see you, Frogan, front row. I am here to present to you an extraordinarily exciting opportunity. We have not tapped this market yet. Now, don't panic, okay? Because you're going to want to panic when I tell you, but listen and learn. Who's billions of dollars, eager to spend it? And what, people are too cowardly to reach out and take the money?
Not us.
Terrorism. Terrorism. Twitch is perfect. You could broadcast it straight into the veins of 18 to 35-year-old men. So here's what I'm suggesting. Hassan Piker. Yeah, we'll get drinks after the show. No, you. He's such a great guy. No, you. Give it up for Hassan Piker, everybody. Happy birthday, buddy. This dude can package anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism like nobody else. In fact, you guys got him on the front page. And he's doing terrorism for free. Basically, gentlemen and gentle ladies, Frogan, you look good today, girl.
Babe?
Girl, you look good. Great job on that Arab tier list. That was good. How much we get for that? Yo, you got 10 million from Qatar for that? That's what I'm talking about.
Well done, Ethan. Well done. It turns out that you can actually make videos on the H3H3 Productions channel. You still have some of that comedic editing. If anybody's seen the music video that he made in this particular video, then you understand exactly what I'm talking about. And you gotta give credit where credit is due because it's taken him a very long time. He's hyped it up to the maximum. And guess what? This video definitely delivered. However, I will say, if you're familiar with the drama between Ethan and Cenk's nephew, you're not going to be surprised by a lot of the information in here. You might learn a couple of things here or there, but essentially this is as been described by me and multiple other people on the internet.com, which is Ethan, who thought he was way closer politically to Cenk's nephew, figures out exactly how radical the guy actually is, exactly how much of a terrorist supporter the guy is, and now he's completely off-put by him. He's sorry that he ever ended up platforming him or assisted in mainstreaming him, and he thinks that Cenk's nephew deserves to be taken down a few pegs, and this video succeeds in that. Now, we're going to get into this. I'm going to break down the key highlights of it, but before we do, I will remind you that my friend Devin Tracy, his parents lost their home in the California wildfires. Now, he started a GoFundMe in order to raise money to get them back up on their feet. The link to that will be in the top of the description. If you can donate, please do. If you are unable to or you don't want to, it's totally understandable. I'm just trying to help a friend of mine.
He presents himself as someone like me, a left-leaning Democrat who supports basic things. And we went on making the show for about 2 years and everything was good. Everyone was having fun. The audience was having fun. No problem. That was until this happened.
We were doing our regular show, and for the first time I noticed an inordinate amount of radical, hardcore leftists. I mean, I thought we were social democrats, not whatever this was.
So there is a lot in this particular video. It is linked in full in the description of this video, but what I want to start with is a bit of the criticism that Ethan Klein is receiving for this video from a lot of people, which is this idea that he thought that Cenk's nephew was not a socialist, was not a radical communist or anything of the sort, but in reality was a social democrat. And to be clear, this is ridiculous. Anybody could see that Cenk's nephew is a rabid communist, a terrorist supporter, a blame America first kind of person. And by the way, Ethan makes a great case for all of those points throughout the course of this video. But the fact of the matter is, you're looking at it from the perspective of somebody who is aware of politics, who engages with politics on a regular basis, when in reality, Ethan is not somebody who engages with politics in this way. He didn't know a lot about it. He didn't know a lot about Cenk's nephew. And considering a huge portion of the internet, including major political figures, will tell you to your face that Bernie Sanders is actually a social democrat, even though he calls himself a democratic socialist, even though he supported each and every socialist dictatorship, minus maybe one or two that has arisen in his entire lifetime, including the Soviet Union, including Ortega and Nicaragua, including Fidel Castro. They'll still make the case that no, actually, Bernie doesn't know the labels that he's talking about. Bernie didn't realize he was hanging out and visiting all these socialist dictatorships. He's just somebody who likes the policies of Sweden and Denmark. Even when you have have the presidents or prime ministers of those countries say, no, we're not socialists, Bernie Sanders is wrong, stop comparing yourself to the Scandinavian model, they will still, to your face, tell you, no, Bernie's a social democrat. So again, he comes from the people who listen to guys like Kyle Kalinske who make that case, or other left-wing figures who will tell you that Bernie would be a center-left person in Europe, when in reality, Bernie is a socialist, and obviously Cenk's nephew is one as well. So it's actually understandable from that perspective. In addition to that, he would defer to Cenk's nephew as some kind of an expert on policy, as some kind of an expert on politics, because he considered himself a novice on politics, and we would actually see those takes in his podcast prior to the teaming up with Cenk's nephew, and of course we would see that deferral in clip after clip after clip until he realized that Cenk's nephew had no clue what he was talking about, and again would just rampantly defend anything that is opposite American interests, and of course cover up for genocides and all sorts of crimes against humanity as long as they were committed by governments that he viewed to be opposed to the West. And again, Ethan lays this out perfectly with a bunch of different examples.
I started to notice that Hassan was carrying a lot of water for communist states' war crimes and genocides.
What do you call Crimea? I call it a part of Russian territory, bitch. That's what I call Crimea. I call it Crimea River, a Russian river. The annexation of Crimea is absolutely a justifiable annexation. Tibet was literally a fucking feudal slave mandate, autonomous zone.
China did them a favor.
That was one. I mean, in America, when I say something like this, people get very upset. You know, we talk about the Dalai Lama saying "suck my tongue" or whatever, but like that's not far from the norm in fucking normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in and
so China unilaterally took over Tibet,
like these are
their culture. They basically are trying to, homogenize the culture.
If your culture,
they're trying to spoil the religion and the identity.
The part of feudal warlords and slavery, abolishing that, yes, I do think that is good.
No, China did them a favor.
This is a good way to describe Taiwan as well. The American federal government going into the fucking South and killing, unfortunately not all of them, but a decent amount of slavers and defenders of slavery. This is violent retribution from a powerful federal government that squashed. Okay,
Tibet is the South in the Civil War.
Yes.
Again, that Tibet clip is so disgusting and so absurd, but it just goes to show you how much Cenk's nephew will simp for the communist regime in China, even though what he's describing as, oh, this was the Confederacy in the American Civil War, has nothing at all to do with Tibet or the repression that they face under the Chinese Communist Party. Again, they kidnapped the Panchit Lama, who is the spiritual figure that is supposed to find the next Dalai Lama when he was a child, and have essentially crushed Tibetan Buddhism and will wipe it out once the Dalai Lama dies, and Cenk's nephew is completely okay with the eradication of that culture and the eradication of that faith because he believes that the communist ideals should take precedent over everything. Also, another great example from Ethan's video is when he asked him, if you have a democratic, communist, and or socialist regime, what will happen if there's a pro-capitalist party? And Cenk's nephew says essentially that you're going to have to force them into re-education because we all understand that communism and socialism are inherently authoritarian, so you can't have a democratic system that allows those interests to exist, unlike under a capitalist society that's also a democracy, where you can have parties that represent a whole host of ideologies. Once you go socialist, it becomes a single party state, and obviously so.
If you're in a socialist country with multiple parties, and one of the parties is a capitalist party, which would surely exist.
Yeah.
What would you do if that party started gaining momentum?
The solution to that would always be education and offering more...
Re-education?
Re-education, certainly, yeah. There should be an enforcement mechanism, and in that enforcement mechanism, I think like rehabilitation, which would include re-education as well.
If putting capitalists in re-education camps isn't disturbing enough,
Now look, there's no way I'm going to be able to hit on each and every point that was put forward by Ethan Klein throughout the course of this video, so I'm definitely going to recommend that you watch his video in its entirety. However, I do want to highlight the Houthi pirate section because I think that is absolutely crucial, and it's one of Ethan's best sections because he shows that Cenk's nephew introduced this guy originally and initially as a Houthi pirate. He ended up, of course, calling him a One Piece character, Luffy, the main character from that anime.
Now we come to our sweet, beautiful, cute little TikTok twink. This hairless young man is the fantasy of every tween and twix and all the boys and girls on TikTok. He's cute. He's got a mustache. He's a freedom fighter. Beautiful eyes. They call him Timothée Chalamet because he's a Houthi.
Bro, are we about to have a Houthi rebel on stream? Yes, brother. What do you mean? Excuse me. Of course I'm about to have a... I'm a journalist, okay? This is journalism. It's so weird. It's so weird. Motherfuckers want journalism, and when I'm trying to do journalism, they go, why are you doing that? Bro, you are going to get banned? I think it would be ridiculous to do that.
However, once he got criticism for interviewing a terrorist, somebody who was responsible for kidnapping people or participated with an organization that kidnapped people that we still have not heard from since they were kidnapped off of ships that, by the way, had nothing to do with Israel, were not in the territorial waters or anything of the sort.
What has happened to, does he know what has happened to any of the crews? Like, I heard they...
Hassan almost asked a good question, but it's actually leading to the most obscene part of this interview.
He's saying he hasn't spent much time with Chinese people, but one of the captain was Chinese, and he did qat with them, and he danced some music with them, and he was vibing. So he likes him. Yeah.
So I mean, what? That's so crazy. So they're just chilling with the captains? Like, I don't understand.
Ask yourself, why is he able to hang out with the captain and the crew of this pirated ship? Why would he even have access to that? Hassan knows why. Of course, he is a Houthi terrorist. Instead of challenging him and demanding more details about these kidnapped and missing people, he just runs defense for this guy, acting like he doesn't know why that would even happen.
He's saying that they win over the crews on these ships, and they like win them over with their charm, and they make them hate America and the U.S. government.
That's so funny.
It is super funny, the idea of kidnapped crew members who are being forced, probably at gunpoint, to do some death to Americas and maybe some curse upon the Jews. And frankly, the callous disregard for the well-being of the literal hostages is shocking, even for somebody that loves terrorists.
That's so funny. Is there a KFC there? They're everywhere. I don't think there's a KFC in Yemen, dog.
He says they have two.
Oh, they do have KFC in Yemen? That's crazy. Okay, that's sick.
Is there a KFC in Yemen? No way, dude! Holy fuck! There's a KFC in Yemen! He's just like us!
Does he know what One Piece is?
What if he's been watching it since he was a kid.
The whole way!
Yeah.
That's sick. Yes. That's fire. That's so fire. Oh my God. We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
You guys all remember Luffy's flag, right? Now, I'm only halfway through that show, so maybe I just haven't come to it yet. But I do not remember Luffy's flag looking like this.
Cenk's nephew then tried to pretend that he was just an average, regular, ordinary teenager from Yemen that he was just trying to talk to, and he was just a regular TikToker, and definitely 100% not a member of the Houthis.
Predictably, there was some blowback after this interview, and Hassan went immediately into damage control to rewrite history.
He said that he was just simply a Yemeni person and not a Houthi. Yeah, I mean, we don't even know if he's a Houthi or not. He's a teenager in Yemen. The dude is neither a Houthi, nor a terrorist, nor a pirate, is not a Houthi rebel. They didn't fucking call him a Houthi either. You want to know why? Because he's not one. He's not a Houthi himself. He's not a pirate, but... you know, I don't think he's not a pirate. He has reiterated the position that he is not a Houthi. Trust me, bro, I'm not Houthi. Be for real. You sucked him off the entire stream. Not even a Houthi militant or anything like that. When I interviewed the dude who they still to this day call a Houthi terrorist, Timothée is not even a fucking Houthi. I thought he wasn't a Houthi because he's not. No, he was just some Yemeni TikToker. Random fucking Yemeni teenager. Didn't you brand it as him being a Houthi interview, though? Bro, are we about to have a Houthi rebel on stream? Yes, brother. What do you mean?
Now, Cenk's nephew, being the coward, being the absolute scumbag that he actually is, of course, is able to get away with this with his audience, but Ethan actually produces all this different documentation to show that this person is, in fact, a member of the Houthi organization, is, in fact, a Houthi pirate, and by the way, he also explains quite clearly and succinctly that the Houthis have a Nazi ideology.
But what I will say is that there isn't many he don't like. Let's start with our good friend Luffy here and his organization, the Houthis.
And yes, this is what it looks like. They are Heiling Hitler.
See them doing the actual Nazi salute right here. And in addition to that, that the people that are getting kidnapped are disappeared. We haven't heard from them at all. And yes, Timothy Houthi is in fact a member of that organization.
Just take Hassan's word for it and assume, okay, this kid is not a Houthi rebel. He's just some ordinary Yemen teenager. Let's go ahead and take a look at his social media and see if that lines up.
All right, let's see here. Tel Aviv will burn in the coming hours. Ready for sacrifice and eager for martyrdom. Maybe he's talking about football? Here he is singing a song with the words, "Do you threaten us with what we are waiting for, son of a Jew?" The meaning of Houthi is a title, and it's not something to fear, but for the Jews. They are very afraid of this title. To every Zionist, I will put this into your stomach. And let me state the obvious. Jew and Zionist is clearly interchangeable to this guy. Okay, but hating Jews doesn't make you a Houthi. Are you a soldier? Yes. That seems pretty definitive. You know what makes you a Houthi? Being a Houthi. At least one of the two of them is being honest about it.
Now again, these are just some of the clips from some of the segments that Ethan produced related to this entire great video that I think is definitely worth watching. But I think it's very important for people to understand that this is not a dispute between the Israel and Palestinian side as it's been made out to be by Cenk's nephew and a bunch of different people on that propaganda train. Ethan Klein basically agreed with Cenk's nephew on being pro-Palestinian about 90 to 95%. In fact, there is a very honest, genuine video of Ethan crying over somebody who is carrying their dead kid, and this is somebody in the Palestinian territory after the war was launched, and you could see that the emotions are raw and they're 100% real from Ethan because he sympathizes and empathizes with the Palestinian cause.
I saw videos of Palestinian dads holding his dead, 5-year-old daughter. I mean, and there was another one that, as a father, it's even hard to talk about. This dude was holding his infant. It was a year old. And he was patting her on the back and saying his final goodbye. I mean, he's holding her like she's alive, like he's just burping her or something. I didn't expect to get emotional about that, but I'm a new dad, and that shit really fucks me up. And I hate to see it.
Now, to be clear, I disagree with both Cenk's nephew and Ethan Klein on the Israel-Palestinian question, but the fact of the matter is, Ethan is showing genuine empathy and genuine support for the Palestinian cause. But what Cenk's nephew did later on in the stream was fake cry, drum up some emotion in one of the most blatantly ridiculous clips I've ever seen in my entire life, in order to avoid the fact that Ethan was pressing him on things that his own friends said about Israelis, about Jewish people in Israel, and I think we gotta show that clip because it's funny, but it's actually even more sinister when you realize what led up to that clip.
This was a major issue. They wanted to do. Sorry, this is really. They went to her funeral and beat the shit out of people and ripped the Palestinian flag off of her. Palestinians can't have a moment of peace in this world. They can't even mourn the dead.
Now look, that was ridiculously bad, ridiculously embarrassing, and for those of you who are going to say, Sean, it's not fair for you to condemn him for crying, I just want to point out, I do not believe that he was crying, and in addition to that, this is the same bastard that attacked Kyle Rittenhouse on the stand when he got emotional, saying that he was fake crying.
There were 3 people right there.
He really looks like a pig. I mean, he's like, he is. He's a pig. Like, I tuned in during the beginning and the judge dismissed the defense for wanting to call one of the dudes involved as a mental hospital patient. Bro, what is even the defense? The dude murdered 2 people for no reason. The defense is he is a good, wholesome white Christian boy who traveled to Kenosha specifically so he could defend someone else's property. I mean, who amongst us has not done that? That's totally normal. Bro, that's hilarious, dude. Okay, dude.
Even though we actually have surveillance video for when Rittenhouse didn't know he was recorded from the police station the night that he defended himself, where he reacted in the same exact way, again, in an empty interrogation room or in a room with just his mother.
Oh my God.
So yeah, Cenk's nephew gets no sympathy in that regard. Also, I don't believe his emotions at all whatsoever are genuine because they were brought up after Ethan pressing him on a series of issues. And I just want to highlight a couple of things. Obviously, if you watch Ethan's video, you're going to see the clip of Cenk's nephew saying that there are baby settlers and all of that, which is absolutely hilarious because he's justifying the killing of settlers throughout the whole course of all of his different work. And he's saying that there are babies included in that. So he's justifying the killing of babies, make no mistake about that.
So you have said that those in the West Bank are fundamentalist settlers. Are you familiar with the international law surrounding the justifiable forms of violence towards?
So first of all,
terror?
I don't put any stock, frankly, in whatever these quote international laws are.
Yeah, it's.
But no, I'm not familiar with
So,
whatever that says.
Technically, the reason why the IDF has to exist in the West Bank and behave in the oppressive manner that they behave is because Palestinians, and this is going to sound very radical and possibly very violent, but this is a matter of law, and maybe even if you agree with this, a matter of morality. Palestinians have the legal ground to violently seize back their own homes from the settlers. This is a reality. And that is precisely the reason why they have to exist under endless occupation in the West Bank.
You know what? And that's why I say if it was settlers, that would be a lot more understandable. Yeah. But let's not obfuscate, okay? I understand what you're saying. But this dude just called babies militants.
No, I understand. And there are baby settlers as well. But there are baby settlers as well. There are babies in the settlements.
But setting that obvious clip that everybody has played for you time and time again aside, this clip right here, which honestly should have been in Ethan's video, a little demerit against him for that, is absolutely crucial because he asked him about something that one of his friends, or actually a couple of his friends said, but this includes the YouTuber's second thought, related to how it's okay to kill Israeli civilians because they're not actually civilians, they're occupiers. And this means all of them, 100% of them, anywhere in Israel at any point in time.
It's a super chat.
Did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news? I don't care.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he agrees with him, so let's just
go on.
Clip.
The occupiers
I
are
do
not
not.
civilians. That is what it comes down to. Like if imagine like if
Sorry, go on.
Germany, let's say Germany to be non-controversial.
That's him, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Controversial.
And not that it matters.
The United States, and they said, you know what, Cincinnati, Ohio is our ancestral home, and everyone knows that's blatantly false. But they take your home, they murder your grandma, they bulldoze like your neighbor's house. Are those people civilians there? No, they're occupiers, and those are criminals. That is, there are no civilians there.
So according to second thought, he says that every Israeli
is an occupier, and there are no citizens there.
I know, but
well, here's one.
No, of course, there are examples of this. It's just entirely and utterly inconsequential, and I 100% stand by that.
It's not. He's an influential man. When you're expressing these kinds of...
Okay, let's walk through that. What do you think is the negative consequence of this? Do you think that people are going to see this and go, oh, I should go to a...
So should I not care about it?
I think that if you look at the reality, and I know you recognize it, a YouTuber saying this kind of thing and spending any time or any effort on this, when your moral position is clear, when mine is clear, spending any time on this whatsoever to be like, we got to clean up our own homes here, deviates from the actual message that must be unflinching. The message is that these violent means of ensuring that the occupation continues is going to inevitably lead to more violence that Israelis will be subjected to as well.
Now, the reason this clip is absolutely crucial is because this is what the entire dispute is actually about. Cenk's nephew and his whole side will frame Ethan as this radical Zionist that hates Palestinians or hates Arabs or hates Muslims or something of the sort, but in reality, it all boils down to this. Ethan agrees with the Palestinian cause, basically 95%. He wants them to have their own country. He thinks that the reason that they're attacking the Jews is because of the occupation. Every bit of anti-Israeli propaganda Ethan Klein buys into. He's anti-Netanyahu, everything and anything you could possibly want, up to the point where he's not okay with the idea that you should just slaughter everyone in Israel if they're Jewish. That's where he draws the line right there. His wife is from Israel. She was born there. Her family is still there, and he doesn't support the idea that people are calling for the wanton murder of each and every person that is born in Israel, which, by the way, Ethan points out in his video that something like 68 to 78% of Israelis do not have any other citizenship or any other nationality.
I find it disturbing that Hassan thinks that a slowdown of imports is going to cause Jews to flee Israel. 80% of Israelis were born there and do not have citizenship anywhere else. So where do you want them to go, Hassan? Back to Poland or back to the Arab countries they were forced out of?
Israel sucks. I'm leaving Israel. That's the goal.
By telling the Jews of Israel to go back where they came from, Hassan attempts to deny Jewish heritage in the Middle East. It characterizes them not as indigenous, but as white colonizers. This is despite the fact that 60% of Jews in Israel are actually native to the Middle East.
So there's nowhere for them to go. They're quite literally the people that are born to that nation. But again, his issue with Cenk's nephew was that he wanted him to condemn, second thought, his friend for calling for the wanton murder of anybody in Israel, not people in the settlements, which, by the way, Ethan Klein's position is that if you're in the settlements, you're actually not a civilian, you're a valid military target.
Led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal, called the West Bank settlements an abomination. Settlers in the West Bank are religious zealots, they're monsters, they're genocidal. I've even said the West Bank settlers are valid military targets. When you talk about like colonial settlers and stuff, like that's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now. And these people are more or less valid military targets, in my opinion.
But second thought's position is that the Arabs can murder any Jew at any point in time in the nation of Israel because the nation of Israel is an occupier, colonizer, every buzzword imaginable state. Therefore, everyone's a valid military target. This is what Ethan wanted Cenk's nephew to disagree with. He wanted him to say it's not okay to just randomly murder his wife's family or him. He lived in Israel for 5 years when he was there just because they happen to be Jewish and a citizen of the nation of Israel. That's where they had the disagreement. Again, you see it for yourself. Cenk's nephew is incapable of condemning people calling for the eradication of the Jewish people in the Middle East, specifically in the nation of Israel. He can't do it. He refused to do it. He defended second thoughts, awful comments. And again, this was after clip after clip after clip where Cenk's nephew also refused to condemn people who were directly supporting the October 7th attacks, including the attack on the music festival, which again were all civilians. They got massacred, and Cenk's nephew refused to condemn that.
Broke through the fence. They put the F-35 on.
What is he saying?
You'll hear it. It's a little fuzzy right now. Here.
And as you might have seen, there was some sort of rave or desert party where they were having a great time until the resistance came in electrified hang gliders and took at least several dozen hipsters. but I'm sure they're doing very fine despite what the New York Post says.
I don't even. Yeah. Okay. Like.
Okay.
I don't.
I'm just criticizing people. You don't have to comment if you're not comfortable about it.
Okay. I mean, I have no.
I mean, he was just like, I don't like this.
Okay.
It bothers me.
I understand why. I understand
He
why
goes,
I don't like
the
this.
electrified hang gliding heroes flew in and killed a bunch of hipsters partying. They were having so much fun at the party till these heroes showed up and mass murdered everyone. Oh, and we liberated the kibbutz, by the way.
I will once again present to you the same exact question. If this rally was not held and if he had not said those things that I do not agree with, do you think that there would be a difference in the analysis and the way that Palestinian people are treated? Do you think that there would be a difference in the bombing campaign that's going on? Or do you think that this is, once again, the violent sentiment of those who are siding with the oppressed?
It's so important for you guys to understand that everything that has come about following this goes back to this moment, goes back to this section of the video. And by the way, when they showed random clips of random Jewish people saying awful things about Arabs, Ethan Klein condemned them in no uncertain terms.
I mean, just listen to what this guy has to say.
To my dick!
What do you think the response should be from Netanyahu and the military to Gaza?
Kill all Palestinians! All of them! Now,
So, like, that's crazy, obviously. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's barbaric.
To just say that on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, why would he? Why would he feel?
There is a level of comfort in saying that, more so than saying,
kill all Israelis,
yeah,
kill all Jews?
Israelis.
Yeah, of course.
There's definitely way more
He's like,
acceptable
no
thing to say.
hesitation there, right into the camera.
Yeah.
No mask.
His face is there. He probably got a job.
Why would he say that? Is that might be a Kahanis flag, I think, too, the one that he's putting up.
But Cenk's nephew would not do that. Cenk's nephew could not do that. And because he was unwilling to condemn the calls for genocide against the Jewish people, he decided to make this all about Ethan being a right-wing Zionist, a pro-Jew, get rid of all the Arabs person, when in reality, nothing could be further from the truth. And he said that to him time and time again, and Cenk's nephew just took advantage over and over again. So this whole fight, this whole beef, all of this is based on the fact that Cenk's nephew cannot ever hold Muslims accountable for anything, even if they're calling for a Hitlerian-style genocide against the Jewish people. And in addition to that, he extends that lack of accountability to each and every person who ends up supporting these organizations, because, by the way, as laid out by Ethan Klein multiple times throughout the course of the video, Cenk's nephew supports each and every one of these terrorist organizations because, spoiler alert, he didn't interview the Houthi pirate by accident. He didn't play the music video as he described it, which is a propaganda video from Hezbollah, by accident, and he hadn't been praising Hamas repeatedly, repeating their propaganda about how they treated the hostages so well and whatnot, by accident. The guy supports terrorism, period, point blank. He has all these different enablers. Ethan goes into how Twitch is actually enabling him.
And then it was discovered that Twitch's head of policy and community guidelines was previously fired from her job publicly by the British government. Why? She does not like the Jews.
That's right. Their head of trust and safety was previously suspended from her job at Ofcom for being too anti-Zionist.
And guess where her very next job was at? That's right, Twitch TV.
Apparently she was posting pro-Hamas tweets only mere days after October 7th happened.
That's so interesting. It sounds just like someone else we know. It's almost like supporting terrorists is institutional. Hell, it might even be a prerequisite.
Take a look at this tweet from Twitch's senior manager of inclusive marketing, Bridget Chermating, on October 12th. People are posting screenshots of them donating to Israel relief funds. Shake my head, y'all are truly rooting for the oppressor. Read a damn book. This tweet was made only 5 days after the October 7th massacre. The donations she's criticizing would go to families like this, if they were still alive. This entire family was murdered in cold blood by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. Bridget, who did these little girls oppress? How can you act so high and mighty for your cause and be so callous and inhuman for the innocents on the other side?
and enabling other creators that do rampantly anti-Semitic things. And I don't mean anti-Semitic in the way that sometimes the ADL or a lot of times the ADL mislabels stuff. I mean genuinely anti-Semitic, like the way that Ethan laid out the whole chart with Arab down to Sabra lover, because it turns out Sabra means Jew of Israel, so you're actually saying a lover of a Jew in Israel. And again, don't take my word for it, watch the video, and here's the clip where Ethan explains it probably a little bit better than I do.
Top and most desirable tier is Arab. And at the bottom, the worst one is, quote, loves Sabra. Now, why does loves Sabra equate to Jews? Sabra is a well-known Israeli company that makes hummus. They've been on the divestment list for many, many years, so the activists are well aware of their status. Oh yeah, and Sabra literally means a Jew that was born in Israel. She apparently consulted with the head of the KKK, and he told her, more subtle. So if it wasn't obvious enough, they pulled me, one of the best-known Jewish creators, and immediately put me in Sabra. Hassan, by the way, who's Turkish, not Arab, is Arab. That's the good one. That's the good one. The Arab ethnicity is S tier. Then Denham's jokes that we don't have a category low enough for Zionists. Once again, calling out my Jewish identity.
Dude, where's the? You guys are missing a category for Zionist.
And if it isn't about being Jewish,
why would they put Ben Shapiro in the thumbnail?
One of the other most prominent Jews on YouTube, in the category next to me, when he's not even featured in the game. Who's next down there? Anne Frank? Einstein? Seth Rogen? Schindler? Well, he wasn't Jewish, but they would put him down there, let's be real.
It also doesn't help their case that both my wife and Ben Shapiro's wife were born in Israel, which would make them Sabras.
So I love this portion of the clip for two reasons. First and foremost, it teaches me something that I didn't know, which was the origin of the name Sabra, and in addition to that, he highlights perfectly that they included Ben Shapiro in the thumbnail for the Frogan video, even though Ben Shapiro was not featured on this list, but he happens to be another Jew that's married to an Israeli, and again, the category is a lover of somebody born in Israel. That's the whole definition, the meaning behind the Sabra thing. And in addition to that, Ethan ends up taking them to school on the fact that hummus, being this thing that the Jews supposedly stole from the Arab world, isn't actually reality, because what happened is they learned it in the Arab world, and then they were expelled from the Arab world in an ethnic cleansing campaign that, by the way, of course, is supported by all of these people, 100% of them, and Ethan puts forward the proof like that.
It also plays up an anti-Semitic trope that denies Jewish identity in the Middle East. There's this idea that Israelis are all white colonizers who are stealing the culture and identity of Arabs to make it seem like they belong there. Watch Frogan and her co-hosts accuse Israelis of culturally appropriating Arab culture.
The one thing that's like funny is that there's two types of like genocide, right? There's like genocide of real people, and then there's like cultural genocide, right? Like this is fucking funny. Like, those motherfuckers trying to take hummus and say it's Israeli is the most insane thing to me.
Dude, the fact that they have the audacity to create Sabra and make that like the staple hummus of America, insane.
It's super offensive to us. And like that's actual like cultural appropriation. Like people get mad when someone has like dreadlocks and they call that culture. I'm like, come on, it's just like a hairdo. Like it's okay. People like white people are allowed to have dreadlocks if they want dreadlocks. But like actually trying to claim our food, our desserts.
Just one question for you guys.
Who the f*** do you think is making the hummus in Israel? Martha Stewart? No, it's the same fucking Arabic-speaking Jews that you kicked out in the 1950s. Yes, they also like hummus, and they like all the same shit you do. Because they are you. They're from your country. You kicked them all out, and now you're accusing them of stealing your culture. You want to talk about cultural genocide? Well, here it is. You racist piece of shit.
Hey, scumbag, here's a hummus place we used to eat at. The chef is from Yemen. Here's another dude from Syria. Does this dude look like a white colonizer to you? Would you like to tell him he's stealing your culture? Well, this is what most Israelis look like.
Dude, the fact that they have the audacity to create Sabra.
This is casual bigotry being passed around like a leftist talking point.
Look, I thought the days of Ethan debunking and destroying these SJWs complaining about cultural appropriation when it was wildly inappropriate were long behind us, but it's actually good to see him represent a counter argument in this way, specifically around hummus, and I actually appreciate it. Now look, of course, I still disagree with Ethan on a million different things. I think he's way too conciliatory to these pro-Palestinian radicals that, of course, are supportive of the destruction of his wife's homeland, of their entire family, which is absurd and ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is, the man knows how to make a video when he actually puts his mind to it, and it's a shame that podcasting is so much more fruitful for him financially and a bunch of other creators, because we've seen talented video makers shift into that direction, and obviously they do it for the moolah because, again, it's just more advantageous that way. And I think Ethan is way better when he's scripted versus when he's actually live on a podcast. However, there's another thing that also cracked me up, where he pointed out that Cenk's nephew always uses genocide to, basically dodge criticism, and I really appreciated the way that he edited this. I'll give you a little taste of it, but again, I'm gonna highly recommend you watch the entire video.
How is this the conversation that you want to have right now?
One of the most cynical methods Hassan deploys to sidestep any criticism is to deflect to the ongoing genocide in Gaza. I've seen him do this so many times. He frames it like you are selfish for trying to criticize him, no matter what the reason is, because there's a genocide happening, man. How can you criticize me at a time like this?
Claiming that I am, too pro-Houthi. When someone is focusing on that while there's an active ethnic cleansing campaign happening. He also apparently thinks Twitch is liable for me interviewing a Yemeni teenager who's only known genocide his entire life. In the middle of talking about genocide in Gaza, and this dumb blow your nose, brother. Love you. Not trying to be mean. Just keep some tissue nearby and clear it out occasionally when needed. Much love. You, dude. My argument sucks? You think it justifies genocide? What are you, stupid? Everything that can be tangentially turned into Jewish people are under attack is a decent way to just drive discourse away from open genocide in Gaza. If your sole focus when Israel is doing a complete genocide in Gaza, if your sole focus revolves around that people are saying you're a Zionist, yeah, go fucking yell at streamers for not covering sufficiently the ongoing active genocide in Gaza instead of coming in here and chirping at me.
Again, it's just good stuff. It's classic H3H3 Productions, and I do appreciate it, even though, again, I still disagree with him ridiculously a lot on a whole host of issues. But of course, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have you seen the full video? Do you want to see the full video? And if you did, do you like it or do you dislike it? Are you a communist with Cenk's nephew, and therefore, you're absolutely worthless in terms of your opinion and your value as a society? Or are you somebody who can see how ridiculous Cenk's nephew actually is, and how deserving of the blowback for the way that he treated Ethan and the way that he treated a bunch of different people he is? As per usual, if you like this video, show him by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Ethan Klein, nuking Cenk's nephew. Till next time.